Hi and welcome to the RCN Rocket Chief. Today we'll be opening this. It contains the Estes Designers Kit, which apparently has enough material to make 8 model rockets with perhaps some stuff left over. So today we'll open the box, we'll muster what's inside, we'll see if it really does seem to contain enough to make 8, and then in following videos we'll actually make 8 interesting rockets, not just 3 fins and a nose cone. I'm going to try and come up with some interesting stuff. So please like and subscribe so that you get warned when we do that. Thanks a lot. So here it is. I will admit that I was surprised and pleased by the size of the box. Hopefully it's not like potato chips and it's mostly just hot air. Hopefully there's enough to fill most of this box. It cost me something over $100 Canadian. I'll put the price up here. But because it was over $100, shipping cost me like $8. I think I had to pay for the insurance on the stuff, so that was pretty convenient. And I got it from the warehouse in Ontario to here in Nova Scotia in just 4 or 5 days over the holiday season, so that was good too. So as always, packing paper, and there's the actual box itself. See if they sent me a bill, which they did. As always, if you want to help cover that kind of stuff, someday I might get some ad revenue at a YouTube if I get enough subscribers, so please subscribe. So this is the Designer Special. Looks to be, there it is. Here. Still seems to be one thing. There we go. So, put that to one side. Let's stay in camera. We'll see how it goes. All right. A couple of big body tubes. Always nice to see. Slightly smaller ones. Oh, wow. Yep. A plethora of body tubes. Of nice length. I'm not going to be able to get all of this on camera. We'll see how it goes. Smaller ones. Oops, some more in there. Engine tubes and whatnot. Try and get some of this stuff that's going around loose. I don't want to cut too much of this open because then I got to deal with it. This is launch lugs and couplers, engine blocks, a little bit of nose weight, or yeah, clay, engine clips. Well, that's all cool actually, yeah. Some smaller nose cones all the way down to mini size, plastic couplers, some slightly larger nose cones, some engine block centering devices, if you will. More couplers and engine blocks and centers. Some big nose cones. Nice one. And that almost looks like a Big Bertha style. An assortment, of course, of parachutes in there. And the famous black Brant one in there. Some plastic couplers. Quite a bit of balsa. 3 couple of thick sheets. Long lengths of shock cord. More engine tube mounts. Oh, patterns for fins. Actually, there's more than 3. Those are double up, so that's about 4 4 pieces of balsa. Technical manual. And then, no, that's just some extraneous stuff. So breaking it all out, here we are. 8 18-inch body tubes. An assortment of engine mounts and couplers. Engine tubes, 18 millimeter and 24 millimeter. An assortment of mounting hardware. And nose cones, big ones. And a nice assortment of parachutes. Engine mounting hardware, anything you'd ever need. And some smaller nose cones and their miscellaneous assorted bits and pieces. And 5 sheets of balsa, streamer. Here's some patterns and books. So, kind of neat, like I said. Certainly, first glance, looks like there's going to be enough in there for 8. But please, follow along. And I've got some pretty interesting plans for some of this stuff. Hopefully it all works out. Hi, and welcome to the RCN Rocket Chief. This is our first week to see if we can actually build 8 rockets out of the material in the Designers Kit Special. If you haven't seen what's contained in the box, there'll be a link down in the doobly-doo where we opened up this box and we'll show everything that's inside. So our first rocket will be Finless. Not a particularly original name, but I didn't name it. There'll be a link also down below where I found the instructions to how to put this together. So one key aspect of our challenge is that at least the first flight has to be from just the material contained in the box. It becomes important right away with Finless because there's a major discussion around this rocket about how you can fly it with bigger engines than an A. Turns out with 0.4 ounces or 11 grams of nose weight, this rocket just stays stable on an A engine. Anything bigger, it doesn't want to work. Fortunately, the kit comes with 11 grams of nose weight that we'll put in this handy little payload bay that we made in accordance with the instructions. But we also would like to try it on a C, so put together an 11 gram slug of Play-Doh that we'll add for our second flight, and we'll put a C engine in this and see how it goes. So carry on to the field, watch the launches, and then come on back and we'll show you how we put Finless together. Finless on an A83 with the recommended amount of nose weight and a 9-inch parachute in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Ooh, flies nice and straight. As soon as the power takes off, oops, we blew apart. But successful flight. I can see the nose cone and whatnot, so this is going to be a pretty easy thing to put back together. So here we are again with Finless, this time with a C63. I've also doubled the nose cone weight and found out that I didn't put the nose cone in tight enough, so a little more masking tape has helped with that. So looking forward to an interesting test flight in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Oh man, did that ever go nice. That worked out really well. And there's the chute. I heard a pop and it does kind of look like it deployed. I got a feeling though that it's going to come down maybe on the edge of our field if we're real lucky, or possibly over in the baseball area, but it certainly flew great. That was most successful. So this is everything you need out of the Designer Special Kit to put Finless together. The key are these cardboard shrouds. Kit comes with 2. I'm not going to talk much about putting them together because I did kind of struggle, but I made them look half decent in the end. The rest of the kit is relatively straightforward. You end up cutting the body tube to make the little payload bay, which is key for carrying the weight. And, of course, the usual engine mount material. In that case, the engine retainer and whatnot will end up being on the outside of the rocket. I put an engine spacer inside that cardboard tube to give it a little more rigidity, which I think worked out fairly well. But as you can see here, the rest of it is fairly straightforward. Putting the engine retainer clips on the outside of the body, the launch lug, putting a area on the
cardboard shroud so that the launch lug can slide up nicely inside it. And then the straightforward adding of parachute and whatnot, the weight, which is of critical importance for this particular build. Carry on. The Designer Special comes with a nice selection of parachutes, but no real way to move them simply from rocket to rocket. By use of a paper clip, we can create that on our own by gathering the shroud lines here at one end, and then wrapping the wire back on itself securely so it doesn't get loose, and then using the open end of the clip as a hook. Same thing here with a streamer. Tie the streamer securely through the paper clip, and then we'll be using the other end as a hook by tying a knot usually at about the midpoint of the shock cord, and we can hook the paper clip through it, and it's nice and secure and relatively quick to change. Here are the rules of the Designer Special Challenge. Pretty much just everything that an average person would have lying around, nothing special, and that's the way we'll be flying our first rockets.
Hi, and welcome to the RCN Rocket Chief. This week is the second in our series where we'll be attempting to make 8 complete rockets, as shown on the box, from our Designer Special kit. This week, we'll be flying and fabricating the Augie II. I'll also leave a link down to the doobly-doo telling you where we got the instructions to put this together. Augie II's claim to fame is that it's a 2-stage rocket, but it's a stack rocket, meaning that it's all one body piece, except of course the nose cone, and the engines are stacked one on top of the other. So, should be an interesting flight. Carry on to the field, then come on back and we'll show you how we put Augie II together.
This is Augie II on a C60 and a B44. And firing into the overcast, a little bit of trepidation, but we'll see what happens in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Nice and straight. Holy cow, there goes the stage. And straight at Augie coming over, I can still see it. There goes the chute. Chute's not unfurling, unfortunately, because of the cold. It's about -5, but it does look like it's going to come down pretty fast in the area. It did. Actually, the chute did not only not unfurl, it didn't come out of the body tube. So here it is. Yeah, either I packed it too tight, which is entirely possible, or the humidity is high enough that it kind of stuck in the tube, but no obvious damage. Obviously, I needed to be a little more careful of packing Augie II. As you can see, whatever rookie mistakes I conducted were certainly evident in a semi-melted chute, and we saw the landing. Luckily, it wasn't too hard, but there is a bit of damage to the end of the body tube. Shouldn't be too hard to repair that. But disappointed in myself, obviously. The rocket flew great, and we'll certainly be seeing it again. Carry on. This is all the material out of the Designer Special kit that you need to put together Augie III. I made one small change to the plans by adding this coupler at the bottom of the engine mount. This allows the lower engine to sit a little steadier in the rocket, as opposed to the various ways that the Augie plans have designed it. I've also had to cut off a chunk of the smaller body tube, because we'll be using that in a rocket that we'll build later. And then we have to put some supports for the outer body tube, because of course there's the inner with, as we're seeing here, with the engine mount and whatnot, and the coupler, and then the stack engines get slid into it like so, and then there's an outer sleeve that fits over it, and the spacing is required, of course, to allow air to feed in and feed that upper stage while it's going. And here's the rocket, the hero shot, and just following now will be how to do the parachutes for the kit. The Designer Special comes with a nice selection of parachutes, but no real way to move them simply from rocket to rocket. By use of a paper clip, we can create that on our own by gathering the shroud lines here at one end, and then wrapping the wire back on itself securely so it doesn't get loose, and then using the open end of the clip as a hook. Same thing here with a streamer. tie the streamer securely through the paper clip, and then we'll be using the other end as a hook by tying a knot usually at about the midpoint of the shock cord, and we can hook the paper clip through it, and it's nice and secure and relatively quick to change. Here are the rules of the Designer Special Challenge. Pretty much just everything that an average person would have lying around, nothing special, and that's the way we'll be flying our first rockets.
Hi, and welcome to the RCN Rocket Chief. This week, the third of our attempts to build 8 complete rockets from the contents of the Estes Designer Special kit. This week, we're going to be doing the Black Brant III. Again, instructions will be left down in the doobly-doo as to where I found the plans for this kit. And I know I was going to try and stay away from basically 3 fins and a nose cone, but Black Brant is a spectacular flyer and a great addition to anybody's fleet. And when you are dismissed to the field, you'll see why I need to have another one built to keep my collection complete. So, carry on to the field, watch the launches, then come on back and we'll show you how we put this version of Black Brant III together.
So here we are as promised. Hopefully not to lose it, but I did promise we'd send up our Black Brant III on a D12-7. Beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky, about 10-kilometer-an-hour winds, maybe less, and about 7 degrees Celsius. So hopefully in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Wow, did it ever go. Weather cocked a bit, not that there's much of a breeze. We can already at a sight. Going to be interesting to see if we see, there it is, way over there. I think there is a remote possibility, but I don't see it at all as expected. Kind of thought it might disappear on us, and it did. That is a heck of a flyer for sure. And I'm perfect 2 for 2 now, having lost 2 of them. Black Brant III on a B44, because I'm getting a little tired of losing these things, with an 18-inch streamer. Hopefully it'll deploy. We've having some trouble with our launches today because of the cold and the humidity, but we'll give it a shot in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Nice and straight, just like an arrow, blasted already in the mist. I don't see it at all, even on a B. There it comes. I see it now. Right on the edge of the field by the looks of it. Oh, in our swamp. I have to remind myself that the swamp is not frozen when I go in to recover or I'll get wet like I did the last time. Good flight though. Well, it seems like no matter what I do, that I am destined to lose Black Brant IIIs. I'm standing on a rock in the middle of that swamp, and I don't see blue, and I don't see orange. In other words, I don't see Black Brant colors at all. Here's my range box. Good grief. Kind of expected, I'll be honest with you, given it's a great flyer, but don't get too attached to it. So a quick check of the Black Brant launch video says it's somewhere on this side of that tree. And as you can see, certainly nothing here. My fear is that it end up in that. And that would be pretty much it, because along with being cold, I'm not sure how eco-friendly this would be running. Oh my goodness, check that out. I think that's it. You don't get much closer than that, but the rocket looks good. I'm gonna drag my sorry body down there in a second, but the rocket looks in good shape. And once I get down there, it's an easy reach to pull it to safety. So a Black Brant recovered, which may be a first.
Everything you need to build Black Brant III in the designer's kit. It's really straightforward, full body tube, balsa to cut up some fins, the spiffy nose cone, and probably the hardest thing, and it's not that difficult of course, is putting together your engine mount and adding that really cool nozzle at the bottom, and you end up with basically a dart that we've already seen flies like mad. So putting it together, very simple, and this is the Hero Shot. Great kit. The Designer Special comes with a nice selection of parachutes, but no real way to move them simply from rocket to rocket. By use of a paper clip, we can create that on our own by gathering the shroud lines here at one end, and then wrapping the wire back on itself securely so it doesn't get loose, and then using the open end of the clip as a hook. Same thing here with a streamer. Tie the streamer securely through the paper clip, and then we'll be using the other end as a hook by tying a knot usually at about the midpoint of the shock cord, and we can hook the paper clip through it, and it's nice and secure and relatively quick to change. Here are the rules of the Designer Special Challenge. Pretty much just everything that an average person would have lying around, nothing special, and that's the way we'll be flying our first rockets.
Hi, and welcome to the RCN Rocket Chief. This week, the third of our attempts to build 8 complete rockets from the contents of the Estes Designers Kit Special. Hi, and welcome to the RCN Rocket Chief. This week, fourth in our attempt to build 8 complete rockets from the Estes Designers Kit. This week, we'll be putting together Corkscrew II. I'll leave some directions down in the doobly-doo as to where we found the plans to put this together. But as you can see, it's anything but 3 fins and a nose cone. It did take some pre-planning to make sure I had enough body tube left over from one of our kits to make sure we had these funky tube at the end. And of course, the rocket is designed to spin or corkscrew on the way up. So carry on to the field, watch a spectacular launch, then come on back and we'll show you how we put together this nifty little rocket. Carry on.
Corkscrew II on an A10 3T, and basically featherweight recovery because the rocket doesn't weigh much, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Holy cow, does that ever go? Hard to tell if it actually corkscrewed because boy, it's a good flyer. You can see the tumble recovery working fine, and it's going to come down way down range, but I think on the field, which is super cool. Great flight. Holy cow. Didn't expect that. Well, here we go. Corkscrew II. We could call it a hard landing when it's not like there's any fins or anything to break off, so it certainly looks to be in good shape. Well down range.
This is what you'll need out of the Designer Special kit to put together Corkscrew II. Little nose cone, chop up this body tube to make it a little shorter to hold the miniature engines, put the engine block in it, some mounts to get it inside the slightly larger body tube, and then putting everything together, and of course a shock cord to hold the nose cone in place, and then getting this tube on straight, a 1-inch section from a larger body tube. A little bit tricky, but not the end of the world. Maybe I was overly paranoid about it, but the rocket looks pretty cool and doesn't weigh a whole lot, so once it blows the nose cone off, as we saw, it comes down pretty nice. Corkscrew II. Carry on.
Hi, and welcome to the RCN Rocket Chief. This is Estes Spitfire. I got this with a beginner's kit over 20 years ago, and it survived moves, bad storage, crashes, and it's kind of coming to the end of its life, and really, it's kind of a bit of a Theseus's boat. It's hard to say how much is left that's original anymore. This isn't the original nose cone, or the original streamer, or the original shock cord. I've replaced at least one of these fins that I know, and I can see cracks in some of these that show that it's gone some repairs over the years. Body tube's getting a little soft, and if you've been around the channel for a bit, you've seen us fly it quite a large number of times. It's a great flyer, but I think it's time that we started with something else, and let's try to upscale it to this. the Super Spitfire. It'll be number 5 in our Can We Build 8 Kits out of the Designer Special kit. And as always, there'll be links in the doobly-doo as to the open rocket file that I created to build this model. And we're expecting a lot of fun with it, so let's go off to the field and see how both these kits fly together.
Great time for a winter launch. It's -12. There's hardly a cloud in the sky. And we've got Estes Spitfire on a B44 in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Nice straight flight, beautiful. See it the whole way. Here it comes over. There's the ejection charge and the streamer, 18 inches Mylar. And now the drifting and the hoping. Looks like it'll be well within the confines of the field. Just an awesome flight. Super Spitfire on a D12-7 and an 18-inch streamer. I'd probably make it longer, but that's the longest one they had in the kit. So we're going to give it a shot in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Wow, nice and straight. Perfect shot. Now the question is, whether we'll get it back. There it goes over to Augie. Here comes the streamer. Here comes the rocket straight down. Looks like it's going to be possibly within the confines of the field. Certainly, I would think, in a recoverable area. We'll know, of course, in seconds, but a nice slow descent, so there won't be any damage. The question, of course, is, looks like it's outside the field, maybe in that tree, maybe in somebody's backyard. Looks like that street out there. Great flight. This seems to be my D-powered recovery street. Once lost a Stormcaster about 100 meters behind us. This, of course, is supersized Spitfire. Looks to be in great shape. Perfect ending.
This is the material from the Designer Special kit you need to get to put together our Super Spitfire. It goes together very nicely. Certainly, if this was a purchased kit, it would be beginner, maybe intermediate. Nice big parts. The only slight challenge is putting together the fins, and that's just something to add a little bit of variety to the 3 fins and a nose cone. Really enjoyed putting this together. The engine mount will hold an E, and according to Open Rocket, which is software used to help model rocketers figure out design parameters and projected heights, the Super Spitfire will do 200 meters. I really think it did. So if we put an E into it, it would be long gone. So don't count on that happening anytime soon from the Rocket Chief. But kit went together well. Here comes the hero shot, and carry on. Come back again next time. The Designer Special comes with a nice selection of parachutes, but no real way to move them simply from rocket to rocket. By use of a paper clip, we can create that on our own by gathering the shroud lines here at one end and then wrapping the wire back on itself securely so it doesn't get loose, and then using the open end of the clip as a hook. Same thing here with a streamer. Tie the streamer securely through the paper clip, and then we'll be using the other end as a hook by tying a knot usually at about the midpoint of the shock cord, and we can hook the paper clip through it, and it's nice and secure and relatively quick to change. Here are the rules of the Designer Special Challenge. Pretty much just everything that an average person would have lying around, nothing special, and that's the way we'll be flying our first rockets.
And welcome to the RZN Rocket Chief. This is the Dualist. So named because my self-appointed mission was to do a dual deployment from this rocket. One parachute coming from the midsection, the other from the more traditional nose cone area, without the use of electronics or any of those fancy remotely controlled activations. Down in the doobly-doo and hopefully up here, there'll be a link to the test flights for the Dualist. Not the easiest little kit to make because, of course, it's all custom parts. So, I present Dualist II. As you can see, a little smaller, but it is the sixth kit we've built from the attempt to build 8 model rockets from the Estes Designers Special. So in this case, as with the other Dualist, it will launch and deploy from the midsection and from the nose cone area. So to load up the Dualist, we're fortunate that we don't need any recovery wadding, because as you can see, the space for the first chute is a little limited, and I did use the small 9-inch chute from the kit. So we simply take it, fold it into kind of a spearish shape, and then wrap the shroud lines around it loosely, of course, and then shovel that down. Actually, excuse me. Then we put in the shock cord, and then, as always, the actual rocket. I'm not doing it super neat here. I'd pay a little more attention if we were going to go right out to the field, but you'll be going to the field in just a moment to see how this all worked out. Then it's got 2 launch lugs, of course, one for each half for extra safety. You line those up, and then the top part, super simple. Just do up your chute like always. There's no requirement for recovery wadding, as there is a baffle in this half, which you'll see during the construction phase, and we just simply do that up like normal, put it in, and away we go. The tricky part, of course, that I've had is the weather here off the Atlantic coast of Canada has been cool and really humid, so things tend to get a little sticky. But also down below you'll find the open rocket and a PDF file if you choose to make one, and let us know how that goes. Carry on.
Dualist on a C65, it's -12, there's hardly a breeze of air, so we're going to give it a shot in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. Nice straight flight, bit of a turnover there at Augie. Here comes the ejection charge and at least one chute, and boy, it's going to be drifting way outside the confines of the field, but looks like it'll be a safe recovery in somebody's front yard. The Dualist looks like kind of a hard landing. Let's see. Doesn't seem to be any obvious damage. The chutes didn't unfurl. It's -12, so I guess that's probably that, but it did look like they both deployed. So, successful flight. Launch. Nice slow takeoff. Not going to go very high. That long delay may hurt us. And, ooh, just right at the last minute. But let's see what we got. So, as you saw, didn't go very high. B44, obviously a little too late for this particular rocket. C was perfect. We get a chance, we'll try it on a B64 to see if we can get a little more height out of it. The key to question here is whether it actually deployed the 2 chutes on a bee so that it's worthwhile trying it again. Kind of looks like it did. Of course, it's really cold, -12, but everything did deploy. Oh no. Oh yes, yeah, everything did deploy. So, oh no. The main chute didn't come out. So not a complete success at all.
Here's everything you need to put together the Dualist II from the Estes Special kit. In this case, of course, starting with the engine mount, you'll be using 3 of the big rings, and the engine mount itself will be just slightly longer than the bottom section of the rocket, which we're cutting up here, to end up with 2 sections and a very large stuffer tube / motor mount in an attempt to funnel the ejection gases past this chute, which of course, as we've seen, goes in stuffed around the top of it, and then is used to blow through the baffle, which is coming up here, and then to eject the upper parachute as well. So all in all, a fairly straightforward build, but certainly not a beginner's build. Here we're putting together the baffles, which was kind of neat. Was able to use one of the little transition pieces. We had to peel it to make sure that it fit properly inside the tubes, drill out the little holes to make sure that everything was fed through. And in this case, of course, there's 2 shock cords, one between the lower section and then, of course, between the upper section and the nose cone. So lots going on to put this kit together, and here we see that the 2 sections are getting ready to go together, and I used a nice stable fin design as well, and we saw that in the launches that it was a pretty stable kit, so no problem there. Although again, it seems like a C engine is certainly the power required to make sure that these baffles don't suck up all the energy when you're trying to blow the nose cone off as well. So easy to put together. A little bit of white glue, usual things, make sure it fits in there nice and smooth, and then we're able to get that upper stage or upper section together properly. And I used a 12-inch parachute, although we didn't manage to get it unfurled during this particular thing. We've seen, of course, during the test that it works fine. Here's a zero shot, no paint, carry on.
Hi, and welcome to the RCN Rocket Chief. This week we'll be continuing with our efforts to build 8 complete kits from the Estes Designers Special. This time, the Xray Payloader. As always, there'll be links down in the doobly-doo where I got the plans and how you can build your own. But in the meantime, I'm certain my granddaughters will come up with something interesting to send up. So carry on to the field, then come on back, and we'll show you how we put this together.
Xray Payloader, and we're going to make space Skittles with it by sending some Skittles into orbit. I don't think it's going to work, guys. You kind of got to lift. Yeah, you hold it. There you go. Nice. Not very high on the A83. Yow. Obviously needs a little more with all those Skittles in it. Let's see how the rocket fared. The Skittles are safe. The streamer didn't come out, unfortunately, so I'll have to pack it a little tighter. Let's see if the Skittles taste any different after being in space. Not that they were very high.
I'm not trying Skittles. Sorry.
Whoops.
Ah! Nope.
They taste the same?
So the Xray Payloader goes together very easily with these items from the Estes Designers Special. It even includes a nice transparent payload bay for you, and the fins come apart easily off the balsa. You could even probably get away with 3 if you were lazy, like I sometimes get. Cut up the body tube a little bit, but the engine mounts directly into it. So very simple, straightforward that way. The only thing I would recommend is that if you're going to launch it with a bunch of Skittles on board, you may want to do that with a C, and we'll certainly be trying that later on this year.
Well, we made it. We built 8 complete rockets from the Estes Designer Special, and for that 8th kit, I put together something kind of funky.
This is the Newfoundland Tanker, number 8 of our attempt to build 8 rocket kits from the Estes Designer Special. It's quite an interesting design. You'll notice that the engine doesn't match up with the body tube, so there is a cut in there for the ejection charge. It'll go up today on a C63, which apparently is the bare minimum engine that can be used to send it up.
Raging, we stand hand in hand. The rising calls of this unforgiving land. Raise your voice, let it echo in the gale. The fire in our souls, we will never fail. Sing for the lost, for the brave and bold. Waves crash like thunder, our tale will unfold. Echoes of sailors that dance with the night. In the heart of the storm, we'll find our right. 1, 2, 3, launch.
And there it goes, nice C63, bit of spinning. And here comes the chute. Nice, worked out really well. Gonna stay within the edges of the field. Great shot.
The Newfoundland Tanker, or I guess if you don't have my Eastern Canadian accent, the Newfoundland Tanker. A nice build, a little more sophisticated than some of the other stuff. You have to make the 2 bays, one for the engine and one for the what we would assume to be a payload bay, which we didn't use in our first launch. But a little bit of creativity is required because, as you'll see when you check the plans down in the doobly-doo, there's no specifics on how to make the cutouts for the engine bay to actually ensure that it launches the ejection charge through the proper tube. So you make up the engine pod as we're doing here, and then you'll end up cutting a slot in it to ensure that the ejection charge is rerouted, and I use balsa covered with white glue to ensure that things went down the slot as you see here. And then I think a much underrated material is white glue and tissue paper in model rocketry, especially this low-powered stuff that gives a lot of extra strength, and you'll see that that's how I attach that engine pod to the actual, what we'll call the main body of the rocket, where the ejection charge is pushed up. So a nice, challenging little build. Lots of cutting of balsa into some odd oblong shapes. And here you can see, again, I talk about the white glue and the tissue paper to hold both the engine pod and the payload bay on board. And here the wings, or the fins, depends on how you look at it. Getting those on there, obviously required to get them straight. And in this case, I held it together with some elastic to ensure that everything lined up correctly. And you can tell by the launch with not a lot of spin that it worked out pretty well. Very impressed with the kit. Here's the hero shot. Carry on. Have a great day.